thank you guys for being here. Obviously, reflecting back on a tough loss on Saturday, we gave ourselves every opportunity, but needed to be better when it came down to it. And like I said, post-game and going back and watching the film, it was due to lack of execution. We've got to continue to put ourselves in better situations. The coaching staff has to find better ways to put our guys in better position, but we got to ultimately go out there and execute at a higher level. A lot of good things to take away from it and a lot to learn from it. You know, our defense held Mizzou. They were 0 for 8 on third down conversions, and going into that game, they were over 40%. But we gave up too many explosives, and that's where the score got out of hand. And then obviously offensively, just lack of consistency. So those were the main things taken from that game. Our focus now 100% is turned to Boise State, a phenomenal matchup. The first of a 4-game series. We'll play them again in 2026. For you guys, will still be around here in 2030 and 2031. So got it all planned out and ready to mapped for the future thing. But I think it's a great opportunity. Obviously, we know that Boise State has long been considered one of the traditional powerhouses in the group of 5, if you will, and a history program that, you know, so many of us had tried to model over the years. They won over 10 games. They won 10 games last year. Unanimous pick to win the Mountain West this season. They should have beat UCF. Actually, had them all the way up until the final minute of the game, and they won their last 2 games. They got kicker hadn't missed. They got the top punter in the entire country. They've got a quarterback that is absolutely phenomenal, big, strong arm that can run. They have one of the best running backs I've seen so far on film in the entire country. Their defense plays sound. Their head coach is a defensive guy that works intimately with the guys up front. It's going to be a heck of a challenge. Excited about this opportunity. I know our crowd is going to show up because this is just going to be a tremendous matchup and a tremendous atmosphere for the Memphis Tigers. So looking forward to seeing everybody out there.
Ryan, in the Missouri game, on that onside kick, it looked like there was some extra conversation or confusion with the refs. Do you mind kind of breaking down what went?
Yeah, unfortunately, more so than normal years, we've had more conversations with officials than we have in the past, and I'll be careful with my words because I don't want to get a fine. But so the SEC officials told us that we had to have a tee on an onside kick, and in my 25 years of coaching, I've never heard that before. And I told them they were incorrect. We have practiced a certain onside kick for the last few years without a tee. And it's just one of those things you practice and go out there and practice without a tee. In fact, an hour later, someone sent me the Washington State-Oregon State game. Was actually, they kicked the exact same onside kick without a tee. But the SEC officials told me I was wrong, and I didn't know what I was talking about. I told them once again in some type of polite terms that they were incorrect, and I know the rules, and they told me no, that they were going to penalize us and wouldn't let us kick an onside kick unless we had a tee with touching the ball, which is not right. They were wrong. They admitted their mistake, but like a lot of those things, the mistakes, an apology the next morning do us no good. I'm not making that as an excuse, but it's just one of those things you always hate to hear it, right? It was no different like the Houston onside kick last year, where that our conference apologized and said, Ryan, we were wrong. They were offsides. You were right. We probably should have thrown the flag, and it shouldn't have counted. So no excuses. We shouldn't have put ourselves in this situation where we had to kick the onside kick, but an error by the SEC officials, which they openly admitted. And I just hope that we can continue to get games officially cleaned, and we'll be fine. But that's not an excuse. We'll find better ways.
But I know it's not an excuse, but what conversation do you have with your players after something like that?
Yeah, look, our players are so resilient and so steadfast in their mind and their approach to things. They also would share the same sentiments. Man, Coach, we shouldn't have put ourselves in that situation to kick the onside kick. We can't worry about the controllables, and it's just like a lot of those things. So that's the way this team is built, which I love. They know, listen, it's one of those things. It's a disadvantage, so be it. Go out there and play ball. And their focus is on Boise, and it won't be. We're not going to look back. I even told our staff, I said, there'll probably be some stuff out there. Every week we just got to continue to focus on the next opponent, and our players will be great about it. They won't sit there and boo-hoo, or no different than the Houston game last year. You watch the film and see the guys offsides, and I'm not saying that's what cost us the game, but people could say it was a big changing point in our season. And, it burns for a little bit, and it chaps your tail, but look, neither here nor there. Time to focus on the next opponent.
I know you're not happy with the result, but when you look at third down, fourth down, penalties, turnovers, other incest on fourth down, you guys played a pretty clean game. You didn't really shoot yourselves in the foot. Are you happy with that?
To an extent. Look, I don't believe in moral victories by any stretch of the imagination. We did some good things. Like I said, this was not I didn't go in Sunday and browbeat our guys, because the effort was there. I told you guys post game, the will was there. The guys, the way they focused, handled a tough environment versus SEC team. I thought they did a phenomenal job with those things. And those are the things that, as a head coach, you always worry, man, if the guys laid down or gave up or went into a game scared or weren't prepared. To their credit, our players worked their tails off to be prepared and to do everything they can to lay it out on the line. So the effort was tremendous. All those things that as a head coach you have to see. Now, there are things we could have executed a little bit better, clearly. And we will, and we learn from it. And that's one of those things I think the coach me coach mindset and approach by everybody in the program. And you guys know this. And I told our guys yesterday, I said, every time I stand up at a podium when things don't go well, I'm the first to put the blame on myself, because ultimately we all got to look in the mirror and say, okay, what can we do day in and day out to be the best version of ourselves, whether it's a Sunday practice, at Monday, getting our bodies right and our minds right. And our guys all have that mentality, man, we did some good things, but not enough. And that's what you want. I don't want a satisfied team by saying, oh, man, we gave it our all versus SEC. No, heck no. They're pissed that we didn't win, and hopefully we carry that over into a great week of preparation this week.
You mentioned that when you went back and watched the film, the execution was kind of the thing that stood out. What do you do this week to make sure that doesn't happen next week?
It all comes down to, are we in our best in our meetings? Are we handling our approach the right way? Are we focused? Can we go out there and practice at a hard level? We're going to strain in practice. We got to work harder. We got to find ways to execute practice. Because I always say this, Joan, if it doesn't show up on a Tuesday or Wednesday practice, man, it's going to be hard to just randomly show up on Saturday. This ain't golf where you can miss a bad shot and expect it. If you're not getting the block right, if the communication's not there, you've got a whole week to clean it up and make sure. But that's the beautiful thing about this is you get to prepare, so that when you do go out there on Saturday, it comes at a great level. Now, we've got a challenge because our opponent is very, very good. I mean, they're easily, yes, they lost to Washington, but I mean, they should have beat UCF, so they should have won. They should be 3-1, same record as us. Again, there's a reason they won 10 games. There's a reason why they're unanimous. They got talent, so we're going to have to go out there and handle our business this week and hope that it shows up in a better form or fashion on display, play in and play out in all three phases this Saturday.
Going into this game, pro-Missouri crowd, do you have a feeling that if we played this game in Memphis or in Nashville even, do you think the crowd would have been pro-Memphis and helped the game in any way?
I can bet your tail if it was here in Memphis, it would be pro-Memphis. We would have had 59,862 Memphis fans. But look, our fans did a great job of traveling there. Given the standards and circumstances, it was a fun environment. I was glad we were able to play in St. Louis, a great town. As an away game, so be it. We walked away with $1 million check, but I wish we walked away with a win. That was more important. But yeah, had that game been in Memphis for sure. But yeah, let's. I'm trying to let's get Vanderbilt. Let's play them in Nashville. I think that would be a fun one. Let's play them at the Titan Stadium. Let's find anybody that wants to play us in a true neutral site game. I think that'd be fantastic. But our fans will travel. But I know they'll show up on Saturday. That's my focus right now. But yeah, for sure would have been pro Memphis.
You look at the Bear numbers defensively on Saturday, 542 yards, give it up. It doesn't look great. When you go back and watch the tape, is it mistakes on your end, or do you just have to give credit where it's due, and that's a good offense, and they just put up numbers?
Great offense, credit where it's due, but yeah, mistakes on our end, right? I think you looked at the explosive passing plays, the shot, the post shot, an uncharacteristic mistake by one of our leaders in our secondary on that second play that led to a big touchdown. Then later on, right, we started trying to bracket number 3, and then they were finding other guys. Then number 3, obviously, torched us a few times with his explosiveness. And then as the game went on, then they were crushing us with their wide zone and, just not finding the right fit. So those are mistakes that we can get fixed. We talked about it, and what I loved about Coach Barnes' approach, he was the first one to say, man, I didn't put us in the best situations, getting the calls and doing those things. So it's a combination of a bunch of those things, great offense, but yeah, defensively would sit there and say that we didn't go out there and execute the level we're capable of.
Is there an update on Seth Morgan and Tristan Vandenberg?
Yeah, so Seth and Tristan are both day-to-day, and that is not, hiding behind the curtain. That's just, we'll see where they're at. Go ahead.
Tanner will prepare, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, Tanner did a phenomenal job. I was told, post game that he was listed as a punter. It kind of surprised everybody, but he's did a phenomenal job. Still credit to him for that. I mean, to be thrown into the mix like that in the middle of the week, without that expectation, he did a tremendous job.
Right, I know from foundation is probably going to be the same from year to year, but this particular team, do you feel like you guys are finding your identity of what you want to be this year?
Yeah, Frank, it is. Every year is different, right? Especially with the roster turnover. So I even mentioned this, I think, a couple weeks ago, and someone said, well, what is it about this team? I said, you have an understanding of what you have in January. Then you get to build it throughout the offseason. Then in training camp, you got a little bit better understanding. With a number of changes in personnel and personalities, you don't really have an idea of what you're all about until the season really gets rolling. So you have a great idea. The one thing it goes back to what I said earlier, like the one thing I think that we can be proud of and we hang our hat on, that we know we're resilient, and the guys fight and they have grit. Those are those things that will carry us far through this season. And I've mentioned the guys' eyes. You guys have been around me now for a long time. I've never talked about our players' eyes like I have this past few weeks, and that gives me hope because they're bought into what we're doing. And it's my job to make sure we're steering them in the right direction. But I think the identity of this team is, man, they're going to prepare their tails off. They're going to give everything they have day in and day out. And the product we're going to put on the field can get better. And that's the one thing. We have not played our best football. And they're a hungry team that understands what it's going to take to win. And we just got to go out there and execute at a better level. And so, what does that mean? Look, it could be a variety of different things. Or hey, are you a strong defense and play sound offense? I mean, all those. Look, we're a combination, and every week it's going to take a different segment, different player to come, and different unit to be outstanding for us to have success.
Now, the same defense that allowed 500-plus yards is also the same defense that forced Missouri owed it for 8 on third down conversions. Does that give you comfort in knowing that the ceiling for this defense can still be what you thought it was before the year?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we saw, obviously, versus different opponents, we saw flashes of what our defense can be. And I think when you do it, and I use the word consistent, I think that's what everybody in college football is looking for, a consistent approach and a consistent product down in and down out. And I think we do know what our defense is capable of. It was just got time for it to show up, and we're going to have a heck of a challenge. Like I said, with what they do, they got a 6'4" wide receiver that's led their team with 20 catches with Boise. That, like I told the quarterback, I mean, he can throw it the full length of a football field. He's a dangerous runner. He's a big young man, and their running back is special. And their O-line, look, it's I keep going back. You watch the film, you think you're watching an SEC team because of what they're capable of. So our defense has a huge challenge, but we hope that ceiling we can continue to realize what it is by the performance on the field.
Are you happy with how the pass catchers are seemingly, like, Seth is spreading the love to all of them? You think about Saturday, Joseph, Kobe scored touchdowns, Rock has a big game, Demir's making plays as well. Are you happy with that group overall and how they're all contributing? Yeah,
I think that's a huge part of what we have to do because, going into the season, I said, Ryan, you lost your top 5 pass catchers. What's next? And I think part of it is you get able to see those guys get the ball distributed, right? The Anthony Lanfears, the Rock Taylor had a huge game. You just said Demir, even Toski Dove, right? I mean, you're seeing all these, Blake Watson. You look, Sutton Smith lined up at wide receiver. It's all these different names, which means we're not relying on one guy. And look, do I wish we had Calvin Austin? Absolutely. Do I wish, Anthony Miller, some of these guys that have been able to be successful in our passing game. But I think we're not sitting there saying, okay, we got to get to him. Last year one of the questions was, hey, you're only throwing to this tight end. But now we're showing the love to a bunch of different guys, and I think that's huge, and it's good for Seth's belief, in what we're able to do, and that's what you want. You don't want to just see one guy being targeted the whole time.
You said you had the blinders on. You mentioned Calvin. Did you see what Calvin or Quindell did yesterday?
Yeah, it's what I appreciate with the blinders on and the lack of world knowledge right now, what's going on. On occasion, I still check ESPN Sports app, and but with being off social media, so our coaches and people always send me stuff, and the Quindell Johnson interception, man, and I was texting with the mom, and then while I'm texting with the mom, she goes, bomb to Calvin Austin. I said, well, send me the clip, and so I got Quindell's mom talking to me about, her son's first interception, how proud she is, obviously, and then she's bragging about, hey, one of your boys just caught a bomb. I said, what? So those things are so exciting. You're so happy for those guys because you feel their joy, and especially when you think about, like, man, for Quindell Johnson to go undrafted, and we all thought he should have been drafted, then to make a 53, and then to get an interception, in his rookie year, he's got a tremendous upside. And then, we talk about Calvin's story. I tell it all the time to all of our guys. In fact, once a month I walk to the back of our team room. I say, guys, this back seat right here in the back of this team room, right here where you're sitting, Calvin Austin sat here for 2 years. And so when you think there's no hope, when you think that things are hard, or you're not getting the chance, or you're on the scout team, I said, the guy that just caught that 56-yard touchdown bomb, he was just sitting right there in your seat, and and fought his way to earn a scholarship, and now doing tremendous things. So it makes you so happy, and plus it's great for our guys to see that know those young men.
Following this loss with your 3 wins, have you, as a coach, adopted Coach Nick Saban's famous 24-hour rule?
Yeah, look, I think in this profession for 25 years, whether it's a win or a loss, you got to put it away. And the only time I have to talk about the previous opponent is because you guys are out here with cameras and microphones asking me questions about the previous game, because no different. I mean, reality, I want to forget all the losses immediately, but you got to do the team meetings, you got to watch the film with the guys. But even like all of us got back from St. Louis in the middle of the morning, and I found myself trying to put that game to bed and jumping on Boise State film, because I think all of us that are built a certain way, all right, what's the next challenge ahead of us? So, yeah, our players, our team, their focus 1,000% is on Boise and the opportunity ahead.
After 4 games and having gone against an SEC defense, how do you feel like the offensive line has come together and performed?
They're doing some good things. Has it been perfect? No, right? I mean, I think we're seeing segments where the run game is doing some decent stuff. Is it as good as you ever want it to be? No. But we always talked about the continuity and the symmetry of an offensive line playing together. You hope they continue to get better and better, right? Those 2 new tackles are doing some nice things. Is it perfect? No, right? I mean, the quarterback's still getting touched too often, and the run game is not where it needs to be. But look, I'm just pleased with their growth and the way they continue to move along, and I think we're going to see them progress, hopefully, like the rest of our team.
Totally different landscape, but like 10, 15 years ago, Boise was obviously kind of the model program for non-Power 5 schools and kind of an inspiration for those schools. I guess given today's landscape with realignment, the CFP and all that, and Boise's not what they used to be, but is that even that idea? Is that still a thing for programs like this anymore, or not really?
Well, I think, you think about traditional powerhouses, and I think everybody, even, recruits know, man, Boise is a big deal, and what they were able to accomplish, because I think everybody remembers their history and what they were able to do. And so you look at that and say, okay, man, that's kind of like, when we got to Memphis even 8 years ago, Boise was the model of what you wanted your program to be. Boise was the one that did the right way, that built the facilities, that did a lot of great things. So kind of every non-Power 5 program modeled to do something like that. And then one of the things they've been able to do is have continued success, right? The 10 wins, winning the, pick to win the Mountain West again. So they're still continuing to do it the right way. And so as a program, as a head coach of Memphis, you say, man, yeah, those 10-win seasons are hard to come by. That's one of the things you model, to win the conference. So credit to them. But, yeah, I still think it's a big deal. And I still think you look at what programs are doing things at a high level, whether it be in Alabama, Boise State, whoever it may be, and try and find ways, okay, what can we do to continue our success, but even elevate it at a higher level.
Ryan, the 2003 team is getting ready to be recognized. For the players in this locker room, how important is it for them to kind of know the history of the guys who kind of laid the foundation for what they are today?
Yeah, Frank, I think it's so important. You guys all know this. I care so much about the history of our program and what's come before us, because those people that laid the foundation, whether it's the 2003 team, a team from 1964, all those people laid the foundation for us to be where we're at today. And we stand on the shoulders of giants, of all those guys that have done some great things. You think about D'Angelo Williams on that roster, who's a friend and a huge supporter of our program still to this day. We're so fortunate. So I constantly try to teach our guys about the history, right? I even showed them, 2 years ago, I showed them Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium and talked before our spring game. Do you guys understand? And I talked about the Titans that were being here one time and some of the history of the stadium. And I've talked about former players and things that have occurred. And I think that's important because we're so fortunate to be where we're at today because of those previous teams and because of the previous coaches that allowed me to be here. So I think that's important. We can't ever lose sight of that.
Hey, Coach, earlier you said that if we had played that Missouri game here in Memphis, we would have won. So, did we trade $1 million for a loss?
No, I didn't say we would have won, but I think it would have been fun to play him here. But that's neither here nor there. Those are the things. There's certain things when contract negotiations go on. We try to play a lot of teams throughout the country, and sometimes there are certain things that we can't control. I wanted to play an SEC opponent. I wanted to play Missouri. If the only chance to play Missouri was out there in Orange Mound on the sidewalk, we would have done it. We would have done it for free. So that's part of it. I never said we would have won, and we didn't trade a loss for $1 million because I think anybody that watched that game said, man, Memphis gave themselves every opportunity to do it. But if Boise wants us to pay us $1 million to come travel here, we'll take it. If anybody that wants to pay us money, but we'd like to play any team, any place, anywhere. And that's the adage that we'll stick by, and our guys always believe no matter who we play or where we play, we've got every opportunity to go out there and win.
Coach, speaking of this weekend, the Boise weekend, obviously, the former offensive lineman Gabe Kuhn, local radio legend, podcast legend in the city of Memphis, is getting married this weekend. Do you have any thoughts on a former football player scheduling a wedding during the middle of college football season?
I'm going to tread this one lightly because I do know his fiance.
Yeah, don't mess with
and and I like her more than I like Gabe, like the rest of us do. And since you called Gabe a podcast legend, he's a legend in his own mind.
Exactly.
And since I had the opportunity to coach Gabe, I know him very well. He was quick to send me his wedding registry and all this stuff and the things he wanted
Did
for
you
his
get an
wedding.
invite?
Well, the invite because he knew I'd buy some nice gifts. But he also, I have a belief that those people that get married during the football season obviously don't want a certain type of person at their wedding. And I knew they would certainly exclude me from that guest list. I think they probably did it on purpose. But look, I'm happy for him and Taylor and wish them nothing but future success. But there's a reason why in a long time I've missed a lot of weddings and a lot of funerals. So I think the next funeral I'll be attending will maybe my own, at some point in a long, long time from now. But look, it's during the football season, so good luck and God bless both of them, and wish them many, many years of happiness and bliss.